My name's Aidan, and I'm 29. I never finished college. Not because I wasn't capable, but because life hit hard, harder than I expected. My mom got sick halfway through my second year, and with my dad long out of the picture and no siblings to lean on, I dropped everything to take care of her. Bills piled up. I took whatever work I could get, warehouse shifts, barista jobs, late-night deliveries, anything that brought in enough to keep the lights on and her medication coming. People around me didn't get it. They saw a dropout, a failure. They didn't see the nights I spent spoon-feeding my mom's soup while studying online marketing in my free time, or the mornings I'd collapse into bed after a double shift, only to wake up 2 hours later to take her to her doctor appointments. Back then, I dated someone named Rachel. She was the kind of girl who liked shiny things, shiny clothes, shiny cars, shiny lives. She came from a money-adjacent family, as she liked to put it. Not rich exactly, but her parents knew the right people and expected the right things. Rachel always had a plan. Finish school, land a PR job, climb the ladder, and find someone on her level to build a power couple image with. I didn't fit into that plan, not after I left college. She tried to hide it for a while, told her friends I was on a break or exploring entrepreneurship, but eventually, her patience cracked. I remember the night she dumped me like it was yesterday. We were sitting in her parents' backyard during some garden party her mom threw. There were fairy lights hanging from the trees, white wine flowing. Everyone dressed like they were attending a magazine shoot. I was the odd one out. Worn jeans, calloused hands from warehouse work, bags under my eyes. She pulled me aside, looked around to make sure no one could hear, and said, "This isn't going to work, Aidan. You've changed. You've plateaued." Plateaued? I asked, stunned. She crossed her arms, eyes scanning the crowd as if trying to find a graceful escape route. "You're not growing. You're stuck. And I need someone who's ambitious, someone I can build a future with." I nodded, not because I agreed, but because I'd seen it coming. I didn't argue, didn't beg. I just walked away, while she turned back to mingle with her friends and sip Prosecco like nothing happened. For the next few years, I kept my head down and worked. My mom passed away quietly in her sleep a year later. That night, I sat at her bedside, holding her hand, knowing I had no regrets. I'd done what I had to do, and now I had nothing left to lose. So I threw myself into what little I had left, an old laptop, an internet connection, and every ounce of energy I used to spend wondering whether I was good enough. I learned digital marketing from the ground up. I experimented with affiliate blogs, drop shipping stores, SEO consulting. I failed, then failed again. But I kept tweaking, kept adjusting. I learned what worked and what didn't. Eventually, I found a rhythm. One small success led to another. A few decent clients turned into steady contracts. A year later, I started my own digital consulting firm. Just me at first, then 2 employees, then 10. I reinvested everything. Didn't buy flashy things. Just built. Quietly, consistently, patiently. It was a slow climb, but it was mine. Fast forward to last Saturday. I was invited to speak at a private networking brunch for digital business owners and tech startups. I almost didn't go. It was across town. I had a backlog of reports to review, and I hate small talk. But something told me to show up. So I did. I parked a few blocks down in my usual beat-up Corolla, still hadn't gotten around to buying a nicer car, and walked toward the venue. Just as I turned the corner, I heard a sharp laugh behind me. I froze. That voice, shrill, smug, familiar. Oh my God, isn't that the loser who never finished college? I turned my head slightly, and there she was, Rachel, in heels that looked like they cost a month's rent and sunglasses way too oversized for the overcast morning. She was leaning against the side of a sleek silver BMW, tossing her hair like she was still queen of the school dance. Next to her stood another woman, her coworker maybe, who stifled a chuckle. Rachel's grin widened when she saw my face. "Aidan, right? Wow. Still surviving." She didn't give me a chance to respond. She turned to her friend and added, "We used to date. Back when I was young and made terrible decisions." Her friend laughed politely, clearly sensing the bite in her tone, but unsure if she should join in fully. I didn't say anything, just slipped my hands into my pockets and gave a slow nod. Rachel rolled her eyes. "Anyway, I have a meeting with Mr. Burke. Big client. Real opportunity. You probably don't know who that is, but..." "Rachel," a voice called out from behind her, firm and deep. She turned around instantly, straightening up like a schoolgirl being called by the principal. A tall man in a tailored navy suit stepped out of the black Mercedes that had just pulled up behind me. His salt and pepper hair was slicked back, his presence commanding. "Mr. Burke." Rachel beamed. "I was just telling my friend about the exciting." But Mr. Burke didn't even look at her. Instead, he walked right up to me, extended his hand, and said, "Mr. Callahan, it's an honor to see you again. I didn't realize you'd be joining us today." I shook his hand, smiling calmly. "Had a little time this morning. Figured I'd drop in." Rachel blinked. "Wait, what?" Mr. Burke turned slightly and said, "Is this your assistant?" I laughed under my breath. "No, we used to date. Back when I made terrible decisions." The moment the words left my mouth, I saw her expression crumble. Her lips parted as if to defend herself, but no sound came out. Mr. Burke chuckled politely and said, "Well then, I'll let you handle your reunion. We'll catch up inside." "Of course," I nodded. As he walked off, Rachel reached out, gently touching my arm. "Aidan, wait. What do you do now?" I met her eyes, calm and steady. "I run the consulting firm Mr. Burke just signed a multi-year contract with." She stared, silent. "And you?" I asked casually. "Still showing off cars that aren't yours to impress people who don't matter?" She opened her mouth again, but just then her phone buzzed. She looked down, and I saw her face pale. "Is everything okay?" I asked, already knowing the answer. She looked up slowly, voice trembling just a little. "Mr. Burke just canceled my interview. He said they're going in a different direction." I nodded slowly, then leaned in, lowering my voice just enough that only she could hear. "Aren't you going to tell her who I am?" And then I turned to walk toward the building. That's when I heard her heels scrambling after me. "Aidan, wait. Please, I didn't mean what I said, okay? I was just nervous. I had no idea you'd be here." I stopped at the door, didn't turn, just stood still and let her words trail off. Then I heard her whisper something that almost made me laugh out loud. Do you have any openings?" I didn't turn around right away. I let the silence hang, the weight of her question floating awkwardly in the humid morning air. Her heels clicked once, then again, then stopped, like she didn't know whether to follow or wait. Finally, I turned my head just slightly, enough for her to see the profile of my face, but not my expression. "I don't usually hire people who underestimate me," I said quietly. "Aidan, come on," she pleaded, stepping closer. "You know me. You know I didn't mean it like that." I faced her fully now. Her eyes darted nervously, searching mine for any softness, any leftover sympathy from the boy she used to date. But that boy was gone. He'd been burned out of me through years of sacrifice, rejection, and relentless work. I wasn't bitter, just focused. "You meant exactly what you said, Rachel," I replied. "You always have. The problem is, you never thought I'd remember." She looked stunned. "That's not fair." "No, you know what's not fair?" I interrupted, keeping my voice steady but firm. "You didn't believe in me when it counted. Not when things were messy. You walked away the second it didn't look good on your social feed. You thought I was some side character in your success story. And now that the roles are reversed, now you want a part in my story." Her mouth opened again, but I could tell she was out of excuses. I stepped back toward the building and pushed open the heavy glass door, holding it for a moment. "You should go," I added. "There's nothing here for you." As the door swung shut behind me, I caught a final glimpse of her reflection, frozen on the sidewalk, arms crossed, clutching her purse like it was the last shred of status she had left. I felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, just peace. The brunch was already in full swing. Soft jazz played from speakers overhead. The scent of fresh pastries and brewed coffee hung in the air. The crowd was polished, ambitious, but not stuffy. These weren't the people who cared about degrees or cars. These were builders, survivors, the kind of people who respected effort over appearance. Mr. Burke waved me over to a table near the center of the room. "Care to sit next to the keynote speaker?" he joked. "Only if you have the good coffee over here." I smiled. He laughed and gestured to the carafe. "Imported blend. Only the best." As I sat down, I noticed a few others recognizing me. People I'd met during past panels, clients I'd helped scale, even a startup founder I mentored last year. The whispers started, then the handshakes, then the inevitable. A woman with a clipboard approached and asked if I'd mind giving a short impromptu Q&A at the end of the event. I agreed. And while all this was happening, I couldn't help but notice the shadows moving outside the window. Rachel was still there, still pacing, still checking her phone. Eventually, I saw her take a seat on the curb. Her confidence was gone. She looked like a child who had wandered too far and was finally realizing no one was coming to find her. That sense of control she used to wield like a weapon? It had slipped through her fingers the second she realized I no longer needed her approval. And then she pulled out her phone and started typing. A moment later, my phone buzzed in my jacket pocket. I knew it was her, but I didn't check. I let the screen go dark. The panel went well. I gave my usual speech about resilience, risk, and redefining what success looks like when your path doesn't follow the brochure. I told them how failure was my best teacher, how dropping out wasn't the end of my education, but the start of the one that actually mattered. The applause that followed wasn't thunderous, but it was genuine. Afterward, Mr. Burke caught me on the way out. "By the way," he said, "I'm looking for someone to head a new division. Remote team. High trust, long leash. Thought you might know someone." I raised an eyebrow. "You want me to refer someone?" "No," he said with a sly smile. "I want you to lead it." That night, back home, I finally opened the message Rachel had sent me. "Rachel, I'm sorry. For everything. I didn't realize what I had until I lost it. I messed up, but I'm serious about working. If you have anything, any opportunity, I'll take it. I need this." I sat with that message for a long time. I could have ignored it, could have blocked her, deleted the text, and gone on with my life. But something in me needed closure, not revenge, just a final chapter. So the next day, I sent her a reply. "Me, there's an internship opening next month. Starting pay is minimum wage. No perks, no title, just hard work and long hours. If you're still interested, let me know. We'll see what you're really made of." She read it instantly, but she didn't respond. And I was perfectly okay with that. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't chasing anyone's approval. Not Rachel's, not society's, not even my own past. I had built my life from the ashes of everything I'd once been ashamed of. And now, I wasn't afraid of who I'd become. 3 days passed without a word. I'll admit, part of me expected a response. Not because I was hoping for it, but because Rachel was the kind of person who hated silence. She thrived on reactions, good or bad. And when she didn't get one, she'd find a way to stir things up. I thought the offer, humble and blunt as it was, would at least trigger another wave of apology or some kind of explanation. But my phone stayed silent. By the fourth day, I'd stopped checking. That morning, I was deep in a strategy call with a new overseas client when my assistant, Lena, knocked gently and leaned her head in. "Sorry to interrupt," she said quietly, "but there's someone downstairs asking to see you." "No appointment." I muted the call. "Who?" "She says her name is Rachel." My stomach sank, not from nerves, but from the weight of whatever drama she might have brought with her. I waved Lena off and said I'd be down shortly. When I stepped into the lobby, she was there, sitting on the bench by the glass doors. She wasn't dressed like before, no flashy heels or designer bag. She wore a simple blouse and black slacks, her hair tied back, minimal makeup. She looked small, not physically, but emotionally, like someone trying to shrink herself into the background and failing. She stood when she saw me and gave a soft, uncertain smile. "Hi, Rachel," I said evenly. "I got your message. The internship." I nodded. "Still available. Starts next Monday. You'd report to our onboarding manager, not me. You'd work your way up, like everyone else." She hesitated. "I was hoping maybe we could talk first. Just us." I glanced at the time. "I've got 15 minutes. We sat across from each other in the small cafe across the street. She held her coffee cup like it was keeping her grounded, fingers wrapped tightly around it, even though she hadn't taken a sip. "I've been thinking a lot," she said after a long pause, "about how I treated you, about how I looked down on you. You didn't deserve that." I stayed quiet. I thought I knew what success looked like. And I thought dating you, loving you, was only worth it if you fit into that picture. But I was wrong. She looked up at me, eyes glassy. "You were the most loyal person in my life, and I threw that away because I was chasing approval from people who barely know me." Another silence. "You don't have to forgive me," she added. "I just needed you to know I see it now. I see everything you are." I studied her for a moment. It didn't feel like manipulation this time. Her voice wasn't sweetened, and her eyes weren't darting for an exit. She wasn't playing a part. Still, I leaned forward and said, "I'm not looking for apologies. I'm looking for people who can work hard, show up every day, and not fold when things aren't easy. If you can be that person, If this is really what you want, then the offer stands. I'll be there Monday, she said quietly. I won't be holding your hand. I added, this isn't a second chance at us. It's a test of whether you can be something more than what you were. I understand. As she stood to leave, she turned back one last time. Thank you for at least giving me the chance to prove it. I didn't answer, just nodded and watched her walk out of the cafe, back into the sunlight. Part of me was still guarded. Another part curious. The following Monday, she showed up. Early. Lena texted me an hour later. She's here. Dressed plain, quiet, polite, asking all the right questions. For the next few weeks, I kept my distance. I didn't want to cloud her work with history. She reported to Kyle, one of my longest trusted managers. I only caught glimpses of her, taking notes in meetings, carrying boxes of product samples, staying late to finish reports. Kyle messaged me once. Your ex? Surprisingly focused. No complaints. Actually, kinda outworking the rest. Still, I didn't let my guard down. Until one Friday evening, a month into the internship, I found her in the break room. She didn't see me at first. She was alone, wiping down the counter even though it wasn't her job. Her hair was messy. Her hands were stained with ink from the printer. She looked exhausted, but there was no bitterness on her face. No self-pity. When she finally noticed me, she froze. I was just cleaning up, she said, brushing her hands on her jeans. I nodded. I heard you stayed late 3 times this week. She shrugged. I had a lot to learn. You're doing well, I said carefully. People are noticing. She looked surprised, almost relieved. Thanks. That means a lot. I took a deep breath and said, you were right that I didn't fit into your version of success. But now, I'm not trying to fit into anyone's version. Not even my own. I'm just building something I believe in. If you want to be part of that, strictly professionally, you'll have to keep earning it. I will, she said firmly. I promise. I gave a brief nod and turned to leave. But just as I reached the door, she called out softly, Aidan. I paused. I don't expect you to ever trust me again. But I hope one day, you'll respect me, not for who I was, but for who I'm trying to become. I didn't say anything back. Not yet, because I didn't know how the story would end. But I knew now, the tables had turned. And this time, I was the one in control. Rachel stayed. Not just for the month. Not just to prove a point. She stayed through the first 90 days, tackling grunt work, late nights, messy data entry, shipping returns by hand, customer support emails when someone else dropped the ball. She didn't flinch. She didn't complain. She didn't flirt or fake it. She worked. At first, I told myself I didn't care. That it was just amusing to see her beneath the polish. No designer heels, no social mask. But somewhere between week 5 and week 10, the narrative shifted. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was improving. She started suggesting improvements to client workflows. She caught a shipping error before it became a PR nightmare. She even took initiative to redesign a client dashboard and present it to Kyle, who, to his credit, gave her full credit in the report. By month 4, the team didn't call her the intern anymore. They called her Rachel. She still wasn't promoted, and she never asked to be. That part surprised me most. The old Rachel would have demanded recognition. This version just kept showing up, early, prepared, present. One night, I stayed late finishing a quarterly report and found her in the office lounge, reading a marketing book I'd recommended 2 years ago in an old blog post. She looked up and gave a faint smile. Didn't think anyone still read that stuff, I said, setting my coffee down. I wanted to understand how you think, she admitted. Turns out it's more structured than I remembered. We talked for a while. Not about us. About the work. The vision. The long-term roadmap. She asked good questions. Smart ones. Not shallow. Not performative. Before I left that night, she asked quietly, do you still think of me as who I was? I paused at the door. Sometimes. But not always. And that was the truth. By the end of 6 months, Kyle scheduled a formal evaluation for her. It was rare for interns to be invited to full-time roles in under a year, but she'd earned the conversation. I sat in on it, more out of curiosity than anything else. She didn't mention me once. She spoke only about the clients, the process, what she had learned, and what she hoped to contribute. She passed. We gave her a full-time junior strategist role. Entry-level, still modest pay. But real work. Real trust. The day she signed the contract, she stopped by my office. She didn't knock. She just waited by the doorway. I know this doesn't erase everything, she said. But thank you for giving me the chance to earn a version of myself I can actually respect. I looked up from my screen. Respect isn't owed. It's earned. You're on the right track. She nodded. I won't let you down. And for a while, she didn't. For nearly a year, things ran smoothly. She worked harder than most. Clients liked her. She became someone people went to for quick problem solving. She wasn't trying to be the face of anything, just part of the engine. And that was fine by me. But the real test came when our biggest client, Nexus Frame, announced they were launching a high-stakes campaign, one that required someone on-site in Seattle for 3 weeks. Kyle was meant to go, but his wife went into early labor the night before the flight. It was sudden. We were scrambling. Rachel came to my office first thing that morning. I can go, she said. I know the account inside and out. I helped design the last campaign report. I've sat in on every strategy call. I hesitated. The client was intense, demanding, high budget, and easily spooked. I can handle them, she said again. Please trust me. I did. She went. And not only did she handle it, she delivered results I hadn't seen even from more seasoned staff. She sent reports daily, looped me in on every decision, kept the client happy through 3 last-minute pivots, and even expanded their contract mid-project. When she returned, the Nexus Frame VP sent me a personal email. Rachel was sharp, professional, and laser-focused. Promote her, or someone else will. That was the turning point. I met with HR and Kyle. We bumped her up to senior strategist. We gave her a raise. More clients. More autonomy. And when the next startup approached us for a brand overhaul, she led the pitch. A week later, she stood in my office again. Not with nerves this time, but clarity. I need to tell you something, she said. And I'd rather say it before it festers. I closed my laptop. Go ahead. She sat across from me, her posture strong but vulnerable. When I first came back, it wasn't just about the job. It was about guilt, regret, trying to fix how I left things between us. I thought if I worked hard enough, you'd see that I wasn't shallow anymore, that I had changed. But now, I'm not doing this for you. She paused. I'm doing it for me. Because I love the work. Because I believe in what we're building here. And because, for the first time in my life, I feel proud of something I did. Not something I faked my way into. Not something handed to me. Just earned. I nodded. That's good. That's all I ever wanted from you. She stood, turned to leave, then stopped at the door. One more thing. Yes. If you ever decide to sell this company, or open another, or expand overseas, I want in. I want to build it with you. Not as your ex. Not as someone you pity. But as your equal. I looked at her for a long moment. You keep this up, Rachel, I said. And I might just offer that partnership myself. 2 years later, we launched a second branch in London. She was the first one I sent. She didn't beg. She didn't ask. She didn't even assume. She earned it. And when the press release went out, announcing her as managing director for our European expansion, I received a single text from a mutual acquaintance I hadn't heard from in years. Isn't that the same Rachel who used to call you a failure? I smiled and replied, yeah, she used to. Now she runs half the company. Some stories don't end with revenge. Some end with growth. Mine just happened to include both.